Good morning, intrepid readers. This is take 2 of the video this morning because I totally lost my train of thought a minute ago and had to stop entirely to think, and then I just started over. So today's blog is called The Mystery of Unfairness, and it is, of course, again inspired by CBS Sunday Morning, which is my favorite weekend news show. So, The Mystery of Unfairness. This weekend, the CBS Sunday Morning had a couple of different stories. One of them was about the guy who does the muscular dystrophy telethons, has always done them. Is that Jerry Lewis? See, I get singers confused. Anyway, it reminded me of my dad. And you guys know my dad died in 2012, and I miss him so much every day. And he would be I so want him to see what I'm doing right now with the writing, because he was a bookstore man and a book man. But that's another blog. Okay, there was another story about Joey and Rory, who are a country singing duo that I only know about because of this beautiful commercial they did for Overstock.com that you can click on in the blog version, in the written version of this. And they have this very sweet love story that ended recently because Joey got cervical cancer and died. And I was just like, I'm following this story after I learned about it. And then on CBS Sunday Morning, they're like, oh, look at the story again. And oh, by the way, she died. And I was like, oh my God, WTF. So unfairness, right? The world is unfair. I know life is not fair. I know, but I was perseverating on unfairness today, and that's why that's the topic of my blog. So my personal experience feeling that life is not fair came this summer when we went on that road trip. We went on that road trip up the coast all the way to Washington State, Oregon. It was fantastic. 2.5 weeks. It was wonderful. We had such a great time. We saw 3 professional baseball games. We saw 5 volcanoes. It was amazing. But anyway, one day we went to see Olympic National Park, and that's west of Seattle, I think. And so we're at Olympic National Park, and just to see the beautiful redwoods and everything like that. And we had the chance to go on a little mini hike, like a mile total, up this path, across a bridge, and then down again. And I was like, oh yeah, a mile, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And so we headed out on this little hike to see the redwoods. Now, I wasn't dressed for a hike exactly. I was dressed for cooler weather in my leggings and my Ugg boots, which are good for warmth, not so good for support or traction. But anyway, it was a mile, right? Easy peasy. So we head up the path, get to the bridge, easy, start heading back. Now, my youngest son is the one who chose the path, getting by. He's like, ooh, look, this is it, pew, and he took off. And so we go about 10 or 15 minutes down the road, and it's sort of looking like not really a path, and it's sort of becoming this entanglement of roots and stones, and the whole area. You look down the woods and it looks kind of like every Friday the 13th version of that movie that you have ever seen in your life, and it's like obviously not a path. So my husband was like, all right, I'm going to go back up and try and find where we kind of try and go back where we came. Well, the problem is my leg. Now, you guys know, who follow me know I have MS, and it's this really irritating disease that I have that has given me some Swiss cheese elements to my brain and spinal cord that are scarring, that mean I have some nerve damage, and that when my temperature goes up or I do something for a while, it starts to not work. Okay, this is true for my right hand and true for my left leg. So in this case, my left leg starts to protest. And we figure out that we're in the wrong path. And so we're just going to go back and try and go back the way we came. So we go back up to the bridge. And we look, and definitely we were in the wrong path. There was a very distinct, that's the word I'm looking for, very distinct path right over here that was totally different from the one that my youngest son jumped on. Now, he's impulsive. He's a lot like me, but I'm not going to blame him for jumping down the wrong path because he's the youngest one in the whole group, and we all followed him without question. So there you go. So anyway, the problem is we're trying to head back down to this real path now, and my leg has started to protest what it's doing. So I tried to write an explanation of what my leg did now, and I like the explanation. I like the words I chose. I'm kind of in love with phrasing when I'm writing, and so I'm going to read it, okay? But this is my leg. All right. As we walked, I would trip over rocks and roots, not because I couldn't see them, oh no, but because the communication between my brain and my leg suffers with the nerve damage wrought by this disease. And even though I can stare directly at the root or rock and talk directly to my leg, it does not abide by my directive. If my left leg was my son, he'd be this mouthy, recalcitrant, juvenile delinquent. I'd say, son, lift up over this tree root. And that uppity little shit would say, fuck you, Mom. I will not do what you want me to do. And no amount of healthy eating, exercise, optimism, or begging can make him lift my leg up over that branch. It ended up that Jim had to piggyback me down for the last half mile of this trip, and it was humiliating, and I was crying, and people are walking up there going, in my head, people are saying, oh, who is this little princess that can't walk herself down the road? And of course they didn't know, and probably they weren't even thinking that, but in my head, that's what they were thinking. And all because of my ridiculous pig-headed leg. So it was a nightmare, and I was, that's my biggest frustration. That's the thing I bitch about the most. I kvetch about the most. I feel like my optimism and my hard work exercising and the way I eat and the way I approach life should have a bigger effect on the things in my body that it's not having an effect on. My adolescent limbs that are behaving like dickhead teenagers, right? I can't accept the fact that I can't understand why this optimism or this work doesn't work for those things. I have a hard time accepting the fact that these things happen to my body. It's progressive. They could keep happening and get worse and worse as time goes on. And they're two important things. My leg stops working after a certain amount of time. My right hand starts working stops working after a certain amount of time. And I'm a writer. So I really like to write. And I really like to walk. And I can't accept that those things are not behaving the way I think that they should. So that's me bitching about unfairness. Life is not fair. I get it. But that's how I felt for the blog this Sunday, and that's why that was your conundrum. So maybe you can help me it's a mystery I'm going to be unable to solve. Maybe you can help me get it. I'd love to hear your views. So until next time, stay mystified.